I was born deaf, but for a week now, I've been able to hear everything. And what I thought was a blessing may be a bit of a curse, too. When I was born, my mom and dad were expecting a perfect son. The ultrasound all came out right. I had all my fingers, all limbs, perfect little face. I was going to be their normal, beloved child. At first, everything seemed to be all right. My parents were so happy. They received me into their lives with open arms. That was until they began taking me to the doctor's appointments all newborns have to go through. One of them is called the newborn hearing screening. I was just 8 weeks old. Cute and small, my mom said I was a quiet and calm baby. My mom was expecting the test to come out perfectly. I completely failed the first test, and since the doctor explained it could be due to a series of factors, a follow-up hearing screen was ordered. I again failed. My mom, now truly concerned, took me to an audiologist for a full consultation. It was then that she was informed that I was deaf and that though they could search for treatment, it was unlikely I would ever hear. I wouldn't know it till a few weeks ago, but this broke my parents' hearts. They wanted me to be normal and perfect, and they had just discovered I was deaf. They were mad, frustrated, and scared, all at the same time. They asked themselves what kind of future I would have. You see, my dad and mom aren't the most open-minded people in the world. They are very prejudiced. People with disabilities can lead normal lives, even great ones. They didn't see it that way. They felt I was faulty and that I would have a hard time adjusting to life, especially when I grew up. They distanced themselves from me at an early age, perhaps in their frustration and confusion. I knew what they did was wrong and that they should have been supportive and understanding. At first, they did try all sorts of treatments. They wanted so badly to have what they considered to be a normal child. I was subjected to a few painful procedures and others that were simply annoying, but nothing worked. They kept taking me to specialist after specialist, hoping to get a second, third, and fourth opinion. Some doctors gave them false hopes, and they'd pay a lot of money for what was supposed to be the solution to my problem. Big surprise, nothing worked. I was deaf, and they eventually gave up trying to fix me. I hate that they thought that there was something to fix, like I was broken. I was just a kid who wanted to have fun and be loved by their parents like any other child, but they didn't offer me the best childhood, to be honest. I grew up feeling really isolated, found myself alone most of the time. My parents refused to send me to a special school, so I had to go to a normal one. I spent most of my day in special ed classes, and I learned sign language there. Of course, I could talk, but I needed to find a way of understanding others, and it was easier than trying to read lips, which was really complicated. Mom and Dad struggled to learn it as well, and they only knew the basics, so we mostly communicated through very general gestures and lots of pointing at stuff. I wished my parents made more of an effort to understand me and be there for me. They always told me they were so busy. It was really hard. I wanted to have a conversation with them, and it was almost impossible because they couldn't reply properly. They lost their patience so easily and gave up trying, and that only frustrated me and them. Our relationship was really strained for a long while, and honestly, it was their fault, but somehow I felt it was mine. I felt guilty for not being their perfect son. When I was a kid, I'd spend a lot of time wishing I could be normal. I hate that way of thinking now. Who dictates what is and isn't normal? Why was being deaf such a big deal to them? I was a great son, so why couldn't my parents just see that? I spent most of my time in my bedroom reading or painting, trying to find a creative outlet for my frustrations. I got really good at it too, but my folks didn't seem to notice. Mom and Dad usually worked late and left me under the care of babysitters. Some were very kind and understanding. Others seemed annoyed by my condition and tried to ignore me when I gestured at them or spoke. It wasn't the easiest of childhoods. Sure, I always had a roof over my head and food on the table, but a child needs more than just food and shelter. I needed my parents' love and support, and they weren't there for me. My parents would eventually come to understand how wrong they had been, and how messed up what they did to me was. But in order for them to learn this lesson, something extraordinary had to happen. Something that would change my life forever, completely unexpectedly. You must remember my terrible home life, but the situation at school wasn't any better either. I hardly had any friends at all and felt alone all the time. I didn't know it back then, but the students at my school were annoyed by my voice. They said awful things about me behind my back and laughed at my condition. Because I never heard how words were pronounced, I spoke the best I could. I thought I was doing a good job, but I would soon find out that others didn't think so. They mocked the way I said certain words and the tone I used, like I had any way of changing it. Honestly, I was a lonely kid. I tried to fit in, but no matter how much I tried, other students ignored me. They didn't pay me much attention, or so I thought. I was sure they ignored me and just didn't want to hang out with me because I was different. But when I turned around and couldn't see them, they would mock me right behind my back. They knew I couldn't hear them, so they could laugh and yell all kinds of nasty insults without me even realizing what was going on. It became a cruel game they played. I wasn't invited to parties, and everyone tried to avoid being my partner in group assignments. They told the teacher it was too hard to work with me. I felt so lonely and blue. I ended up signing up for after-class art programs, and at least I got some distraction during those hours. My art teacher really supported me, and I got even better at drawing. I decided I was going to grow up to become an artist. If I did, it wouldn't matter if I could hear or not, only if I could paint. And I was really good at it. I even got an award on one of my paintings in high school. I had no idea that my life was about to change soon. One night, a few weeks ago, I had a surprising dream. It was unlike anything I ever experienced before. I could actually hear everything around in this dream. The birds chirping, the dogs barking, people talking in the street. It was incredible. When I woke up, I was sure that it had all been just a dream. But then how could it be that I heard when I never before could? So I sat up on my bed and tried to listen. And to my surprise, I could actually understand everything around me, even the tick-tock of my clock. I couldn't understand how this was happening, but I was so happy. It was the best day of my life, or so I thought. I ran downstairs, ready to tell my mom and dad all about this miracle. But then I heard them talking in the kitchen about me. They were worried about what would happen to me after they were gone, how I would deal with life with my disability. Dad said I was useless this way, that I would never be able to get a good job and support myself. I was heartbroken, so instead of walking into the kitchen, I went back to my room and changed into my school uniform. I didn't want to speak to my parents. I didn't want to give them any kind of nice surprises. They didn't deserve it at all. I was so mad at them. I actually thought about running away. When I slammed the door as I left my home, I could hear it loud and clear. It was so strange. I was actually startled by a loud sound. When I got to school, it got even worse. I could finally listen to what my classmates were saying about me. They called me all kinds of nasty insults, like a complete loser and other cruel nicknames. I locked myself in the toilet and covered my ears to enjoy the silence for a while, needing some peace and quiet. It was all so overwhelming. I couldn't understand how this miracle had happened, but now I didn't know if it was a bad or a good thing. I wanted so badly to tell someone about what was happening, but I decided against it. I first wanted to know what everyone really thought about me, what they said behind my back. Turns out only my art teacher had nice things to say about me. And much to my surprise, there was a girl in my class that actually thought I was cute. Finally, though, I had enough. I needed to confront my parents and let them know I knew what they really thought about me, how neglectful they had acted all through my childhood. I told them everything, how I could suddenly hear, how I had been listening to everything they said about me for weeks. I explained how much it hurt me and how wrong the way they acted was. For the first time in my life, we had a real heart-to-heart conversation. They really listened to me, and they really poured their hearts out to me. It was an incredible moment. My mom felt so guilty, and my dad couldn't believe he had been so blind. They understood the way I felt and told me they were blessed to have me as their son. Mom insisted on taking me to a doctor to try and discover how it was possible I had so suddenly recovered my hearing. They ran all kinds of tests, and I saw a series of specialists, but no one could explain how it had happened. It was a miracle, my mom said. Honestly, I don't really need to know the reason why. All I care about is that I now finally have a good relationship with my dad and mom, and I get to discover a whole new world now that I can hear. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos on the channel.